December 4th. What have you got for us? So, 1:06 a.m. The moon will make an opposition with Mercury now direct. Okay, so this is the last bit of this Taurus moon before we get into the Gemini full moon, which is coming up. So this opposition to Mercury happening at 21 degrees, which is the Sagittarius degree. And we've got that Mercury going direct now. We are still in the post shadow where we are starting to make sense of some of the things that we found out over the last couple of months while Mercury was retrograding. So this tug of war between the moon in Taurus and Mercury in Scorpio is because Mercury in Scorpio is going on a new adventure, Sagittarius degree. It's looking for some kind of truth from the past. And that's going to take your stubborn internal, this is what it's always been, emotional system is going to have to let go of something. It's going to have to give a little something to be able to figure this part out. And then when we get to 2:50 a.m., we get this semi-sextile to Chiron, and that is at 23 degrees, which is the Aquarius degree. So this is where we really are being helped, and look, probably not in a very direct way, because a semi-sextile, even though it's trying to be positive, it can cause a bit of irritation, a bit of annoyance, because it just doesn't quite make sense. But you're being told that you need to stay open-minded so that when it does make sense, you're not closed off to it. And then we get this 4:56 a.m. sextile to Jupiter. Now, this is going to be an interesting one because you're probably going to wake up for it. We're at 24 degrees, which is the Pisces degree, and we are really looking at how we can now integrate and understand and work with these things that we're starting to figure out we're running secret authority over us from our childhood. So we're going to start seeing with the rest of this Taurus moon as it plays out, that a lot of the things that we thought we should do or we should be or we should feel, a lot of the very stubborn inner mentalities that we had, a lot of those weren't even for us, for who we actually are. And this is where we can really start to just review a little bit, because with Jupiter in retrograde, we are looking back to the start of June. What was kind of coming up in that family space? Where were you finding that you were really digging your heels in regards to your worth, your money, how you make your money, how you see your worth and your worthiness of making money, where you maybe judge yourself a little bit too harshly for how you do things and how you show up? Like your physical world, where were you seeing some things that are maybe a bit outdated? And now on the other side of these retrogrades, we've got one more to go direct, one more big one at least. And we're starting to feel it. We're starting to see it, that, oh, okay, if I release that rule, that should, that family value, is that something I would choose to pick up on my own? So the sextile is really trying to help us see here. So it's really trying to help us understand that through a conscious effort of creating inner stability, creating stability in our own lives, not based on the values and rule structure that we got from our family, we can really start seeing some shifts in how we judge ourselves. Okay, we do still have the South Node in Virgo, so we are still learning some things about being the critic. So we get the sextile to Jupiter and then the sextile to Saturn, because these guys are kind of moving together for the next little bit. And Saturn going direct. So at the 25 degrees being the Aries degree, he's sort of saying, right, so whatever it was that you just looked at, that you just figured out, that you just really understood and integrated about your family, what's your value? How do you judge yourself? What's your inner philosophy when it comes to this thing that you have been very stubborn about? Okay. Now, that is likely to cause a shift when we get to this quintile to the node at 7:26 a.m., because that's really going, okay, well, how would you move now? You know, how do you look at this place that you're going to that you might not be quite sure of where it is? You can start to feel it, can't you? And this is that moon at 25 degrees, which is the Aries degree, I am. And it's really saying, okay, well, if you want inner emotional stability, if you want to feel good, it's got to come from you internally. And in order to kind of feel a little bit better about where you're going to, you're going to have to let some stuff go, because is it worth holding on to fear? Is it worth holding on to judgment of self? Okay. Now this one, 10:51 a.m., the moon opposition to Lilith, followed by a conjunction to Uranus. Very big energies for the rest of the afternoon. I mean, we've had those sextile to Jupiter and Saturn, but the rest of it is also very big. Okay, so 28 degrees being the Cancer degree, and this tug of war between, surface level shit and depth of emotion. Okay, and now Taurus energy struggles with those Scorpio qualities. It doesn't want to look at things that might be in the dark. It doesn't want to look at shame or guilt, and it really struggles to be able to take responsibility for those things. And when we have Lilith in Scorpio on the other end of that tug of war rope, you're going to have to feel some of it. Okay, you are going to have to feel some of it. But because we've had these earlier sextiles with Jupiter and Saturn, you should be only needing to feel the parts that belong to you. Okay. And if you have been struggling with that, then this tug of war is really going to show you that you cannot have inner emotional stability, moon in Taurus. You cannot feel good about how you show up, your body, your physical, material world presence. You can't feel good at any of those things if you have all of these secret shame and guilt judgments pushed all the way down. So that opposition to Lilith is going to help us with that. And then if you haven't quite shaken it yet, this conjunction to Uranus is coming on in, and it's going to pull up the last 8 years of your life for review. And it's going to go, yeah, okay, well, let's maybe look at these things. How did your family values that don't align with you, how did that affect your stability? How did that affect how you felt about your worth? How did it make your self-worth feel? Right? Then 12:50 p.m., of course, Neptune still retrograding at 29 degrees of Pisces, so we'll be still meeting up with every moon before we move into the next one, is really saying you need to make more of a conscious effort to understand how generational traumas, generational programming, generational shoulds and values, how those things affect your life. And again, a sextile is here to say you don't just get to like roll over on it, right? You need to make a conscious effort to understand how these past programs are showing up in your life. Okay. And this is a really good one for working through those past should programs or the curse energy when it comes to money, right? Like if you feel like you are someone who has had that family curse, you never feel like you feel good in your body, you never feel good in your body. You might think that you never feel comfortable that you've got the right amount of material world abundance to feel good. Maybe you feel like you just aren't worthy of it. Okay, this is a really good energy to be working with those things, because that trine to Pluto. So we'll have the sextile to Neptune is where that moon's going to go void. Then it's going to come out of that void moon. It's going to move into Gemini. Trining Pluto in Aquarius. So Pluto going direct, of course, and the moon in Gemini bringing in a little bit of maybe we need to get some more information. The vibes of searching for information, the vibes of being open to new information. So this moon trining Pluto is here to say, we can work together. We're both air signs. We're both very interested in collecting information. So let's do that. Let's do that. Let's find where the weirdo can give us some more information about who the fuck we are and where we are going to. Then at 8:49 p.m., we get a tug of war situation here. This could be in a family dynamic. This could also be in a work dynamic, okay? Because 4 degrees related to Cancer energy. So we are at the inner security, the security in the home. And this has got to do with your worth. This has got to do with one-on-one relationships or your worth when it comes to work, okay, and the balance of that. So this is really the energy of the moon in Gemini, looking for information about how to be secure, how to feel nurtured, and wanting to kind of move really quickly in one direction because it's trying to collect information. But Venus in Sagittarius at 4 degrees is wanting to feel secure with how it's going about its journey. And so you might find that your emotional space wants to run, but you actually need to kind of sit and feel out the tension that is coming through. One of these two wants dominance, right? Like the moon in Gemini, it wants to be in charge, but also Venus in Sag also wants to be in charge. And Venus in Sag thinks that it fucking knows. And the moon in Gemini has a bit of information and that's all it really needs. So where do they need to work together? Where do they need to combine their skills? Okay. If you would like to book an appointment and find out how December's energy, especially after the 15th, will be affecting you, you can find all of the details on my website. Stay weird.